I just realized that I forgot to hit the start recording button. Why do I keep doing this? Hey guys, Dina here. I've been having lots of technical difficulties with this particular video, but you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna kill it. It's gonna be amazing. And today we're gonna be talking about how you can start attracting the right clients with your portfolio and how to create a really cool outreach marketing strategy so that way you're creating content that engages. So that way, by the time they actually land on your website, you have the right content, you have the right portfolio to really win them over to where the client feels like they can trust you with all of their gobs of money, right? So let's jump right into it. Boom! Slides, that's what's up. Doing slides again, not just Dina talking into a webcam. Next level. All right, so this is all about how we can attract the right clients to get you paid. Keyword here is the right clients. All right, because a lot of us, we've all had that experience where like people be hitting you up on Instagram, be like, girl, can I get $20 for a logo? And you're like, hell no. How dare you even say that shit to me? Or you just have people that have no idea what you offer, so they want you to be a copycat artist. They're like, hey, this other artist made X, Y, and Z. Can you copy it for me with a piece? No, what we need to be doing is we need to develop what's called a niche market. We don't want to be super broad with the kind of people we want to be attracting to our website and to our social media, because the more niche, the more that person's going to feel like you're talking directly to them and having like a real conversation. Because if I'm saying things that resonate with someone, their ears are going to perk up, they're going to be more interested, and they're more likely to read through my content. But if my audience is too broad, I'm going to have missed opportunity after missed opportunity because no one's going to look at my content and relate to it. No one's going to go to my website and feel like I'm talking to them. They're going to think that this isn't for me. And people make such a quick decision when it comes to hiring. When freelance clients, what do, right? To find freelancers. Well, they typically go to like Dribbble or Instagram or Google, type in a bunch of keywords, and they typically have like 50 freaking tabs open just looking at portfolios, and you only have a couple of seconds to get their attention and make them feel like, all right, this is the freelancer for me. So I want to go over some of the biggest mistakes that I keep saying freelancers do. And I keep looking at all these different kinds of freelancers' websites and how they're portraying themselves online. And I'm just sitting there like, it's gross. But don't worry, there's room for improvement. So let's get started with how we're going to outreach with people in the first place. Oh, and by the way, just in case, this little guide over here, these wireframe situation, this is what I think your ideal homepage should look like. Look at it. Look at it in all of its beauty, where you guys are going to have one main sentence. This is the main thing of how you're going to attract people to make sure that they've come and landed at the right place. Then you have a brief introduction. You're like, hey, these are my services. This is what I offer. Talk a little, kind of like a mini about page, if you will. Then you talk about your featured work or your services. And then you have a call to action, because every single page on your website should have one call to action. Don't be like Facebook, where there's like literally 300 options when you land on their website. It's like, do I want to talk to this person? Do I want to follow this person? Do I want to play a game? Do I want to buy this thing on the side banner? There's so many options. And people like to be click happy. Like, you go through a website, you feel like, you're like, oh, I got this. I know how to use a website. And then you just want to click that button, and go all over the place. But typically, just one call to action is nice. Give them the homepage, give them the overview of what they can expect on your website, and whatever your main call to action is, which in this case, which would be to be hired by a client, it should be something like request a free quote now, or book a free consultation with me to discuss your project. So this is just kind of, if you guys want to screenshot that, I'll let you. All right, let's talk about outreach. This is some stuff that people don't normally think about. So I just want to kind of organize this structure for you. You have to be able to create free content in order to get paid. All companies know this. It's called a freemium model. And yes, you may have heard this word used a lot by apps. It's like, hey, our app is free, but if you want to get extra tokens and level up sooner in this game you just downloaded, that'll be $3. It's really similar for artists out there as well. Whether you're doing that through blogging, social media, or videos, it's really just some kind of content that you can create on a consistent basis that helps you build an audience. Because no one's really going to want to follow your thing, sign up for your newsletter if it costs money. you have to earn their trust first. And you have to do that with consistency, not only with how often you post or giving them that information, but a consistency of message as well. Because there's a lot of artists on the internet, and there's a lot of people that we follow, and it's hard to remember all of those people and all of the things that they offer. But if you make it concise and easy to remember, that is going to only help you. So that way people can remember you, whether or not they want to hire you directly or give you a shout out to someone who might be potentially looking to hire you. So let's just kind of dive into some of these things. So the main reason for me personally that I'm on the first page of Google when you type hand lettering artist, why I'm literally the first result on Google if you just type hand lettering artist Portland, is because of blogging. At a very early age of my career, like 6 years ago, I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. So something that's always helped me, even like in high school, was writing. And the more I wrote about a subject that I was personally learning myself, the more I felt like I could comprehend it and I could regurgitate it later. So when I first started getting into hand lettering, I started a blog, and I was blogging on a weekly basis. And I was just talking about all the things I was learning, like if I took a Skillshare class, what were the top 3 tips from that? Or if I made a new piece, I would go ahead and like show the process of that piece and explain my design decisions along the way. And that really, really helped me get traffic to my website because I was giving people a reason to go to my website in the first place. And if you're a new site, there's this thing called SEO out there that's really, really important. And the majority of all my clients that I get right now come from organic search results from Google. So blogging, even though I know like not a lot of people do that anymore, it's becoming less and less popular, is still one of the best ways I've found for me to be able to get and attract new clients to my website. So consider blogging if that's something that you might be interested in, especially if you're looking to attract more professional grade clients, people who are going to be paying you more than $1,000 per project. This is really helpful because they're going to be using Google to find you. So you want to be figuring out what keywords does someone have to type into Google in order to find your work. This is kind of a hard thing because most illustrators just think illustrator, artist. But those are really broad terms, and we need to be using things called long tail keywords, which would be something like the difference between a long tail and a short tail is this: lettering artist, short tail keyword; hand lettering artist in Portland, Oregon, long tail keyword. This long tail is much more specific, so I'm able to have an easier time ranking for those keywords. And if I rank for hand lettering artist in Portland, Oregon, it's not that much of a stretch for me to also rank eventually for just lettering artist, that short term keyword. And I think SEO is just a really powerful thing. I definitely think you guys should look into it, study it a little bit, maybe even get Google Analytics certified and see where that gets you. It's really been a huge game changer for me. So when you're blogging, you can do things like teaching your craft, obviously, like prove to clients that you know what you're talking about. Like if you want to get hired for more hand lettered chalkboard signs, not only do I want to see a portfolio filled with hand-lettered chalkboard signs, but I want blog posts about your process working with clients, any sort of issues that came up. Maybe you're working really small on chalkboards or really big on chalkboards, and talk about all the different mediums of choice and the different kinds of supplies. Make it feel when that client lands on your website, it's like, damn, this girl knows what the fuck she's talking about. Because you have to keep that competition mindset. If I'm a client and I'm looking at 2 potential portfolio websites and and I'm looking for chalk lettering, one person just has a bunch of lettering pieces, but there's not too much focused on chalk. And then the other person, they exclusively offer chalk lettering and they have a shit ton of blog posts talking about chalk lettering. Which person do you think I'm more likely to trust with my thousands of dollars? The specialist, right? Not the jack of all trades. So no matter what kind of service you offer, there's a way to niche down. And don't worry, we're going to get into that in like the next few slides. But just to kind of get you excited and thinking about what's my outreach strategy? How do I reach people? And blogging for sure. I'm all about it. Now let's get into social media. All of us are probably currently using some form of social media. You just might be using it the wrong way. And if you were listening to last week's live lecture, that was really all about like 5 things you could be doing right now in order to start getting paid through Instagram, whether that's client work or you're selling products. Definitely check that out if you haven't already. And don't worry, it was free to the public, just the edited versions. So you don't have to be a patron to see it. You just got to be a patron to get the live feed. So when you're creating, content for your social media, you really want to have two different kinds of content. You want to have content that is promotional content, right? Like, hey, I'm having this sale, or this new product was released, or I'm now accepting new clients. And then you need to create free products. These are the kind of posts, free posts, that you want to go viral. You want to create content for people to share and spread the word around your art with no expectations. That means you're literally not asking anything of them. You're literally just giving them a gift, is what I like to think of it. There's this functionality for Instagram, for example, because I know most artists really care about Instagram. That's the number one platform. I know it is for me, where you can go ahead and you can check out how many people have shared that post to their stories. This is great functionality. This is the first time Instagram's finally letting us create some sort of virability to our work, where places like Facebook and Twitter are really easy because you can just retweet, you can just share. But this is really the first time that Instagram is letting us share content a little bit easier on Instagram without having to take a screenshot. So definitely recommend you guys check that out. When you are in Instagram, check out a post in the last 24 hours, click the three dots in the top right-hand corner. You'll see view story reshares. By the way, nothing will come up if no one shared your story. It'll just be blank. That option won't even show, but that is a really good way to see how many people are digging your artwork. Now, this is really great because even though you're not asking for anything, like you're not asking people to share it, you're not asking people to comment, you're not asking people to buy anything, but that doesn't mean you're not getting anything out of it. Obviously, when people share your content, they're sharing it to their own following, so you might get more followers out of it, you get more credibility, especially if one piece that you create is so popular that maybe another person who doesn't follow you sees like 3 or 4 people that they're following talk about you. Like, wow, what a first impression, right? So I just want to kind of get you in that mindset is you need to be creating art that's share worthy, not just whatever the fuck you want to that day. And I think there's a big difference between creating art for yourself and creating art for a market. And there is a middle ground in there somewhere. It's just the key word here is relatability. If I can relate to that post in some way, it makes me laugh. It makes me feel something. It makes me sad. It makes me feel less alone. I'm much, much, much more likely to share that content with other people. But if I just, do a hand lettering phrase that is just kind of bland, just like, motivational, it doesn't actually hit my heartstrings, then I'm not going to share it. And the same can be said for any other illustration out there. So for me, I'm really strategic about my social media, and I just released a class that's actually available right now that you guys can check out, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. That I share all of my tips and tricks to help you guys grow a following, but more importantly, get paid and figure out how to use Instagram as an advertising channel and not a validation machine. So definitely just try to create some expectations. When I'm using later to go ahead and, plan out my grid, I'll typically always try to do I'll do 3 posts in a week that are just for fun, just for people to share, just for people to enjoy, and then maybe 2 posts a week will be more promotional. So something to keep in mind when you're talking about yourself. Last is videos and live streams. That's what I'm doing literally right now. I think video content is amazing, whether or not you're doing it professionally with multiple cameras, where you can see their desktop and their pretty face, or if you're just hitting point and shoot and doing an Instagram live. In my experience, which is all my advice is just from personal experience, live streams have worked really, really well for me. I have a shit ton of social anxiety, even though I know I come off very confident. It's just because I really know what I'm talking about when it comes to these things. But you take me out of my element and I'm just hanging out with people on the daily, I get pretty fucking awkward. But live streams have been such a great way for me to showcase my personality a little bit more within the safety of my own home, which is really, really nice. So I can definitely put my best foot forward because I completely control the situation. If I see something weird or off-putting, I can just not stream anymore and delete the stream and no one has to know about it. You know what I mean? And I really, really like that. It's Dina did a boo-boo. This never happened. But I actually think live streams are just a really easy way to create content, especially if you're just wanting to, go live on Facebook or live on Twitter. You can really go live on all platforms now, can't you? I like going live on Instagram. That was the first social media platform that I was really going live on, aside from Twitch from back in the day. And I got some really good, feedback from that. People said they like were able to fall in love with my personality, and it led to actual sales. So you could talk about whatever you want in a live stream or in a video. Typically it's behind the scenes content of how you made something, talking about the how and the why instead of just the what behind a piece. It could be more educational, like what I do, just sharing what you're learning along the way and just really showcasing the real you. The more kind of outreach that you do to people to have them get to know the artist behind the art, that's always going to help you, because it's much, much, much easier to remember a person than all the things that they do. So there's definitely an important connection to be said for that. So Danny's asking, what has been something that has happened that made you erase a live stream other than technical difficulties? Like Twitch has very specific rules. And I always like to, have like a 5 to 10 second delay just in case something happens. Like one of the rules, if, let's say a man with bare nipples comes on the screen, you can technically get banned or in trouble with Twitch. And there was one time that I was streaming and I was like drawing and showcasing my process on Twitch. And then Rick walked in with no shirt on and I had to immediately cut the stream off and delete it to prevent being in trouble by the terms of use of Twitch. So that's a reason. I also had another situation when I was doing an Instagram live stream that Rick was like playing with my iTunes account, and then my verification code showed up on my iPad as I was drawing. So I was like, I don't know if anyone can hack my shit from that, but I'm going to immediately just took down the stream and deleted it just to prevent any potential theft. So, stuff like that happens. It's a nice excuse to be like, bye, peace, I'm out, just to make sure that everything's on the up and up. You know what I'm saying? I personally do all three of these things. I do a lot of blogging with my patrons specifically, and then I'm trying to get better about getting back into blogging on my own platform. Social media is a given. I post once to twice a day, every single weekday, and then I do live streams once a week. So obviously, I'm the kind of person who's just shitting out a ton of content, really just trying to do both free and paid, so that way I get people to like me, so they give me money. That's what it is. I not only am I nice and I'm giving you this stuff, but I'm hoping that the rule of reciprocity will come into play where it's like, hey, remember that girl who talked to you for 90 minutes about your social media strategy? Maybe you should pay her some money. Maybe you're more likely to talk to a friend about me or buy one of my posters or, shout me out to a potential client that might hire me. You never know. So think of it as kindness, think of it as marketing research, whatever the thing, it's really going to make a difference just to put this into your headspace, in your to-do list. This is what I need to do in order to attract people to my social media, to my website, so I can get paid. And yes, I'm still talking to you, people who want to freelance and get hired by clients. Because the more content you create, the more following you build. If you can prove to a client that you know how to connect people to an image, that's exactly what they're looking to hire you for. So it's just more social proof for them to feel more comfortable hiring you in the first place. All right, so now that we get our outreach kind of taken care of, let's get into website. This is what I like to call your first sentence. This is the very, very first thing someone's going to see when they land on your homepage of your website. This is the thing I was talking about. When I land on your site, I need to know exactly what you offer, and it needs to relate to me specifically. So again, we're not worrying about trying to have a really broad words here, but we want to attract everybody. That is not the point. You're actually going to lose more money that way. It's way better to be as specific as possible. So this is how we can kind of narrow down a few things. And it's really similar to what we talked about in last week's stream. We were trying to figure out how to talk about ourselves in our profile bio on Instagram. So no matter what, you need to keep the sentence short. It could be a run-on sentence. Just make it one sentence. And you need to be figuring out what are your specific clients' needs. And a lot of this is, who am I trying to attract in the first place? What kind of client, what kind of services am I offering to those clients? What kind of industry are those clients in? So everything about this sentence should be very specific to what you're offering to the client. It shouldn't be about me. Like, oh my God, I'm so passionate and I love coffee and I live in Nevada, holler, like that. Notice that to a client, that's meaningless. Unless they're looking for an artist in Nevada, you've literally made no connection with me whatsoever, and I'm just going to move on to the next person. But if you start to talk about your niche, your services, and your location, then my ears start to perk up, right? That's when I know I've landed in the right place. Because you have to remember, not all clients fully understand what illustrators even do and all the nuances that we offer. So if you're getting a bunch of inquiries right now from clients you honestly don't want to work with, it's probably because you haven't figured out your niche yet. And that's why it's kind of confusing some people. They're just like, oh, you can just draw anything, so I want you to draw this for me. It's like, no, I only want to draw hand-lettered t-shirt apparel for the sports industry in Puerto Rico. Like the more niche you can be, the better. I don't know how many sports are in Puerto Rico. That was probably a really weird example. And again, we want to be thinking of those Google keywords. The more words we use, like niche and service and location, those are keywords that people can use and type into Google to find you. So not only is it important for you to figure this out, but it's going to be the main H1 on your homepage. And H1s, like the main heading and title of a page, is the main thing that Google looks at. It's the title of the page, the H1, the actual physical title, like what it says in the URL. Like if that all correlates, then you're probably going to be more likely to rank for those things. All right, let's break it down step by step. All right, niche ideas. We have medium, industry or service, and then subject matter. Okay, you can niche down with all three of these, just one of these, just two of these, whatever you want, the more the better. Okay, so medium. Right? So for me, my mediums are chalk. That is like literally the only medium I use aside from Sharpies, just straight up like Sharpies, microns, chalk. And then everything else is digital, where I'm using my iPad Pro and Apple Pencil to, be able to create work in a really, really quick way. And that's stuff I can say in my first sentence. I can say digital illustrator, or I can say chalk illustrator, right? That's so much better than just illustrator, right? And then we also have industry or service. So an industry would be like the sports industry, the cosmetics industry. But if we have service, that's much more like, what are you actually making for these people? Are you doing apparel? Are you doing advertising? Are you doing murals? Are you doing logo design? Fucking event posters? Like, what do you love to do? And honestly, I never thought that I would be paid like $2,000 to create like a t-shirt for a business. I really never saw that coming for myself, to be honest. I thought, being a t-shirt illustrator, that's just way too competitive. Everyone wants to make t-shirts. Like, how am I ever going to be able to make this my career? Consistency. It took like 5 years to get here, and I did a lot of projects I wasn't proud of, and I worked with a lot of clients that I didn't enjoy working with. But over time, I learned from those mistakes, and I refined my niche more and more as I got older. And now I say no to a lot of clients. I end up saying no much more often than yes, because I get so many inquiries on a weekly basis that I literally just can't say yes to everything. So I get to be a little bit picky, and that's a really good situation to find yourself in. So if I had just kind of taken this niche approach when I first got started, I would have landed here like years faster. It probably would have only taken me a year to get where I am today instead of 6. So think about your industry and service. For me, it's apparel, advertising, and murals. And then we have subject matter. Subject matter are the themes of your work that are consistent. Like right now, I talk a lot about, it's like funny things with humor. They're really, really relatable, especially with people who deal with body issues and, low confidence and anxiety. And a lot of the root behind all of my work is motivational. So if someone else is looking for a motivational, inspirational fucking quote by a hand lettering artist, hey, I'm your girl. What's up? Do you also want it to be funny and relatable? Oh my God, I can do that. I got you, boo. I got you, right? Now, we can talk about some other things, but these are usually the most important things. So, what's your medium? What's your industry or service? What's your subject matter? Slap that bitch into a sentence. So, with all of these keywords, I go, a hand lettering artist that uses her playful wit and never-ending motivation to connect with people through apparel, advertising, and murals. Now, there's a couple keywords in here I want to point out. First of all, we have my main keyword, which is hand lettering artist. If you are a hand lettering artist and not just an illustrator, definitely start using hand lettering artist because it's much less competitive. If you're a watercolor illustrator, put watercolor illustrator. If you're a comic book illustrator, put comic book illustrator. Like, don't use broad terms, try to niche it down. That uses her. Hey, I'm a woman. That's cool. Using pronouns. So playful wit and never-ending motivation. All of my phrases are relatable, and they always have a little bit of humor in them. And not a lot of people can do that because that does require a little bit of copywriting. So that's something that I have the client doesn't have to worry about. So that's really, really helpful. And the fact that I say I'm personally really motivating. Like I'm always constantly like everyone else's cheerleader, which makes a lot of sense if that's the kind of subject matter that the client is looking for. And then I'm really, really specific when it comes to, hey, what can you pay me? What can you pay me for? I make apparel, advertising, and murals. So it's really, really clear, you know what I offer. There are some other things that we can talk about just to help you figure out how to talk to clients, because we really need to be creating content that's all based on the client's needs. Every single time you write a sentence, you need to think to yourself, why would anyone care about that? Would a client care about that? Does that answer one of the key questions that client is going to have when they land your website? If the answer is no, then don't fucking put it in your don't put it in your copy. That's just what you do. So the three things that all clients are looking for are inspiring brand loyalty, right? They want to get more people signed up to their newsletter. They want more likes. They want more engagement. So that way people know who they are. And when you have a loyal customer, you have someone who's going to buy something from every single sale that you do, every single product launch. And that's what clients crave, right? Obviously it's sales. Like, is someone more likely to buy a t-shirt because it has your art on it versus something they could have bought on iStock? That has a lot of value. The same thing with driving engagement. So if you can prove with your own following that you're inspiring brand loyalty, that you're increasing sales for yourself, that you're driving engagement on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, that's really good social proof showing that a client that you could probably do it for them. I know I keep saying that, but it's really, really important. I just want to say, like, you're not wasting your time if you're just in that social media phase and you're not quite at the let me build a custom website phase. You can work towards working with clients at whatever pace you need, but I'm setting up the dominoes in the right way so that way you get to experience that first paycheck a little bit quicker than you would normally from creating work that you're proud of. Because it's really, really hard to find that as an artist, to create work that you're proud of with a client that you're passionate about. Usually those two things are mutually exclusive. So it's really, really amazing if you can tie them together in the same project. And then finally, we have project goals, right? This is things like, okay, what kind of content do you deliver on a regular basis? Like, what are examples in your portfolio that match with the project goals that client particularly has? The content, again, could be the services that you offer. Like, hey, this person's, if they're looking for Instagram quotes to get shared, then it makes sense that you create that kind of content for them to be interested in. The delivery type, this is the kind of, like, what's the deliverable? Is it a vector file? Is it a raster file from Photoshop? Are you creating, custom commissions where they actually physically get the piece of paper that you drew it on? Whatever that person's looking for, you need to be specific on the kind of content you make. Like for me, I don't make vectors. I know how to use image trace and I'll do that, but everything else has that handmade look and approach to it that Illustrator just doesn't have, in my opinion. And I really like to work with pixels instead of anchor points personally with my workflow. And that's something I like to be upfront about on my website as well. All right, Danny's giving me an example. A watercolor illustrator using her feminist humor to smash taboos and drink more gin. Unless you are an illustrator that just specifically makes watercolor illustrations for gin and other alcohol companies, then you're just kind of missing it on. So I probably wouldn't give you an A. I'd probably give you like a C+. So you don't fail, but you don't quite ace it. You got to, every single part of that sentence needs to make me feel like you know what the fuck that I want. And you really don't want to have too much humor or too much playfulness, especially within this first sentence. You can be as fucking playful as you want other places, just first impression, people. It's really, we only get one first impression, right? Other things are, we said use cases, style, and color. So it's like, hey, do you have like a really pink, feminist, fucking crazy color scheme? Are you really bright and saturated? Are you the pastel pink queen? Are you all about that millennial pink and the pastels and all the baby blues? Typically, if all of your work is in the same color theme, a lot of clients are going to assume that's the only color theme that you work in, which is especially difficult for people out there who are afraid of color and are still just in that black and white phase. People can look at your portfolio and think, oh, they just offer black and white. I know this is ridiculous. Like, obviously you can add color to anything you make, but clients, you got to make it really clear. Make it really clear. And colorful is a word that is used very often by art directors when they are looking for artists. They're like, I'm looking for an artist that can do colorful, whimsical illustrations. Like, try to think of those descriptors and how you can, again, make that person feel like you're talking directly to them. All right? First sentence. I want you guys to think about this. stare at this slide for a second, write it down. If you guys want to go ahead and send me a DM on Instagram with your first sentence examples, I will totally give you feedback. And of course, for my patrons, my beautiful patrons, if you want to reply to a comment of this video, let me know what your first sentences are and I'll give you some feedback because you're amazing and I love you and your money. Next slide. All right, case studies. Oh, why does no one know how to do case studies? I don't know. People haven't figured out case studies quite yet. All right. This is proof that you actually know what you're doing. I feel like this is all like, explain your value in one sentence, create free content and get paid. It's like proof that you are capable. Now, you don't need to have a portfolio filled with client work. A lot of people out there, maybe you don't have any experience with working with clients, and that is okay. There is nothing wrong with that. Everyone has to start somewhere. So I want to take a moment. If you are the kind of illustrator that really, really want to, become a fashion illustrator or an editorial illustrator or a branding illustrator or an advertising illustrator or whatever, you need to start creating the kind of work you want to get hired for. It doesn't have to be real. It could just be a personal project. And tons of people have made a very successful living just based off passion projects alone. So they're really fucking powerful. You just figure out, okay, who is the exact demographic that I'm looking for? What kind of subject matter do I want to be known for? What kind of mediums do I personally gravitate towards? And then take all of those things with the dream project, with the dream clients you always wish you worked for, and create an illustration series that is made to attract those people. So that way when they land on your website, damn, this girl's professional as hell. Or boy, whatever your gender is. I like to use myself as an example. Personally a lady. Thank you very much. Be like, wow, this person really knows what they're doing. I feel like I can trust them. So having a case study and a series of case studies is really, really important. And guys, the less is more in this case. You don't need like 20, 30, 50 examples of what you can do in your portfolio. That's actually quite overwhelming. A much better approach is, hey, I'm starting this thing out just to have 3 solid case studies. Now, there's a big difference between case study and portfolio piece, and we're about to get into that right now. All right, so when you're writing a case study, this is essentially you're explaining your design decisions at every stage of the process. Showing a case study is really important for 2 main reasons. Well, 3 main reasons, actually. 1, it's content. A lot of other people, when they're doing their portfolio, they just show images and don't explain themselves. So first of all, they're not going to rank on Google because Google likes content, not just pictures. They go nom, 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 nom on that content. So don't be afraid to write here. So it's really good for SEO. 2, this shows that your work actually took time to make. When you're showcasing, hey, this is my thumbnail phase, this is my mood board phase, this is my rough sketch, these are my inks, this is my digitalization process, and actually talking about how long it took you to complete all of those stages, you know what that's called? Value proposition. You're making yourself look hella expensive, and you should. This tells clients, especially clients that don't have a lot of experience working with freelancers, that you cost money and you are not a printer, and it takes time to make anything good. Number 3 is you're showcasing your personality. You're letting people get to know you a little bit better. Not only is content great from an SEO standpoint, but it's really great for the client to read your process and understand the fact that you're making design decisions based on the goals of the client and based on the demographic that you're meant to sell to. You're not just making decisions like this one's prettier. I just like this one better. Those aren't reasons. You need to think critical about your work, and art directors and potential clients are going to see that and they're going to value the shit out of that because you're actually creating work that they can make money off of. And that is the entire point. You have value. You are an investment to these businesses because they're going to pay you XYZ, right, to create XYZ product that they're going to make money off of. So the more that you can prove that you know what you're doing by actually writing content and explaining your design decisions, that's only going to help you make them have an easier time hiring you. Because we all know what it feels like when you're about to drop like a butt ton of money and you're like hovering over on that add to cart. You're just like, oh shit, should I buy it? I don't know. What if I don't like it? You go over all the risks, right? You're like, what if it doesn't ship on time? What if I need it before Christmas? What if it gets damaged? If you're thinking about from a freelance perspective, is this person going to fuck this up for me? Am I going to have to hire another freelancer? Is this going to be a waste of my money? Can I trust this person? So the more things you can kind of tick for that potential client, the more likely they're going to feel much, much more comfortable reaching out to you to get a quote in the first place. Danny's like, I'm dumb. You're definitely not dumb, my love. She's blown away that she's never learned about case studies in college. That's so, yeah. I learned about case studies because from my perspective, when the word case study is used, it's typically talking about like an advertising agency or a marketing firm. And they have a case study when they're working with their big budget clients. Like you'll see the word case study a lot with like web developers too, where they are doing exactly what I'm talking about, where it's like, hey, these are all the steps, these are all the assets, because there's such big projects, you obviously have to show the entire, like all the fullness of that project, all the different illustrations, all the different things that are included. And you also show things like wireframes and all the thinking that led up to it. This helps make the client feel good too, because not only are you creating case studies on past work, but hopefully you will get into a rhythm, if you will, creating case studies as you work. So not only does that potential client get to see what it's like to work with you, but after you're done with that client, right, after they hopefully hire you, you get to present to them a case study when they're done. So it's like, if I gave you $3,000 to create, let's say, a t-shirt for my business, right, that's a lot of money. And instead of me just getting an email with a PNG file that says, what do you think? And instead you're giving me an entire presentation of all your design decisions, all your process, showing all the work that you put into my project. Aren't I so much more likely to approve that? Aren't I so much more likely to pay that final invoice a little bit quicker because I'm so excited to get those assets? Guys, case studies are a huge game changer. And you really need to consider them instead of just putting images on your portfolio. Because this is the difference, in my opinion, of novice artists and designers and professionals. Right? Now, not everything that you create needs to have a full-blown case study. I typically only do case studies around client work. If I have a personal project, since I do so many of those, I typically will just show different process shots of it with maybe like a paragraph or so of information, and that's fine. I don't expect you to go full-blown crazy on every single project, but hey, if you can, leg up on the competition. See what I'm saying? So how do we write a case study? You've been looking at the slide for a while. I'm sure you've read it, but I just want to go over it. So you start with the introduction, right? This is who, what, when, where, how, baby, right? Storytelling 101, where you're giving that introduction to engage future clients. So that way, you know, if they're looking for a chalk installation and they happen to land on a case study chalk installation page, holy shit, that's relative to them. And the example I'm using here is a case study that I did for a chalk installation. And then you do that show and tell process, right? You just really easy, brick by brick. You have your intro. Usually you have like a beautiful mock-up of your piece being used in real life. You have your intro. Then you have, for me, my first step is the art direction phase. So I'll actually show a picture of like the Pinterest mood boards that I create when I have that initial art direction meeting with the client, because it's like, hey, this is the art direction you approved, client. Don't forget. So that way it serves kind of like all the goals laid out before you actually get into the production process, which is hella fucking professional. Then you go into the drawing phase, the thumbnail phase, and actually start to talk about, I chose this concept because of X, Y, and Z. It had more contrast. It was easier to read. It was more in line with your audience. It was more feminine because your demographic is feminine, or is more masculine because your demographic is masculine. You see what I'm saying with this? And just the key word here is just explaining your design decisions with more than I just liked it better, really. And then you always want to end it with the grand finale, is what I like to call it, where you have at least 3 final mock-up shots of your pieces. These can be zoom-ins, show the details, show the work. And no matter what kind of project you created, we typically only send the static images. And then it's up to the client to put it on a t-shirt or put it on a mug or put it on a web banner or put it on social media. So if that's a situation, definitely create some sort of mock-up. There are free mock-up sites out there. There's Creative Market. There's Graphic Burger, which is the free one. There's a ton of resources out there. You can make your artwork look more real. Even if it's like the same mock-ups that all the other fucking designers are using, it just really helps paint a really, really clear picture on what you offer to that client. Because yes, I can see an illustration and no, I can just print it on anything, but actually seeing what it could look like, printed on that t-shirt, or how that would look, on Instagram, and just having a nice little mock-up really makes a huge difference because it makes it feel real. All right, so this is my last slide. We're breezing through this. This is the contact page. This is Probably the single most important page on your entire website. I know what you're thinking. You're like, Dina, I thought that was the home page. No. Dina, I thought that was the about page. No. Actually, your about page is probably the most visited page on your website, but if the main way you make income is through client work, then it makes sense that the last touch point of your sales cycle, the last page that they see on your website to convince them to hire you, to fill out that contact form, to fill out that questionnaire, to book a call with you, needs to have actual fucking content on it. Don't just have name, what the fuck do you want, submit. That is so fucking lazy. You're lazy. This page is really important. Please spend time to actually make it feel like you're a professional. At this point, since it's the last page, right, of your website, this is the page where they make that final decision to request a quote from you, you have to alleviate any final risk factors that that client is thinking. And this especially has to do with your onboarding process. So there are two different kinds of process. You have production process. That's what you're doing once they've paid the deposit and you're actually starting production on that project. But then we have onboarding. This is more of all the steps you have to take that lead you to finally get paid. This is stuff like, okay, I'm filling out the questionnaire, and then what's the next step? Well, I'm going to ask you more questions. Maybe we might have a meeting or a sit down. Cool. Then what happens? Well, then I'm going to submit via email some package price options and let you choose one. And then once you approve that, I'll send over a proposal. And that proposal will also include a contract and have all the nitty bits in it. And then when you get that contract, you'll also be prompted to fill out a 50% upfront deposit. And then once that 50% off, once that deposit is paid, then I will officially add you to my production schedule, give you an outline of that schedule, and then we can finally get started. This is important for a few different reasons. One, it's important to have an onboarding process because it is going to kind of be a roadblock for a lot of those cheap asshole clients that you do not want to deal with. The people that just want to get a price from you and they're just looking for the cheapest thing out there. They don't care about quality, son. They only care about their bank account, and that's okay. There's going to be clients like that until infinity. I totally understand it. Not all of us can just give someone $1,000 to work on a project. And we shouldn't judge those people for that because we've all fucking been there, right? Another thing is the more steps that you have in your onboarding process, this really shows the client, again, you know what the fuck you're talking about. Hey, I can't give you a price until I know what you want. In order to know what you want, I need to ask you questions. And you need to give me answers to those questions so I can understand the scope, the delivery time, if it's something that's even in my wheelhouse to create for you. Like, is this even something that I even have time for with my schedule? And to understand the nuances of like, how long is this fucking project going to take me? How do I, how many hours should I book for it? All the things. And I can't do that if you just reach out to me and go, hey, I'd love to hire you. What are your prices? It's like, what do you want, man? Like, you have to tell me what you want. You have to tell me what you want. So typically professional clients that have the budget to hire you in the first place are going to be used to some sort of onboarding process. It's very normal. And also it shows that you're expensive. Like, hey, if you can't just give me prices out of the gate and I have to fill out this form in order for you to give me a quote, then that just tells me this is going to be expensive. This is probably going to be more than a few $100s. And I'm just already kind of prepared in my client brain to pay that. It's very unlikely that I'm going to spend 20 minutes to fill out your form just for your quote to be $50. Highly unlikely. So what do we need to put on our contact page specifically, though? Let's do it. Let's impress people with the right questions first off. So for our contact page, we want to impress people with the right questions, obviously, but first and foremost, we need to make sure that they actually know how to contact us. So many people only put their email, or some of them don't even give me your email. All they give me is a form. That is so sketchy. And like I said before, like some people don't even give me your legal name, so it's like, you just run away with my money and I'd never find you. Like, that's super creepy. Not going to trust you with my money. Just saying. So you guys need to provide your business information. I want your contact info. That includes your phone number. I want your email. I want to know what state and fucking city you live in. You don't have to give me your address. That's fine. That's a little bit much. But a lot of people who are going to spend thousands of dollars on a designer they're gonna want to call you. Like, they're not just gonna, be okay with email. Like, some people, yes, I would say like 90% of all of my clients I could just work with via email, but I don't want to. In order for me to have a better impression, sometimes it's a lot easier if I can just book a consultation with them via video chat, whether I'm using Skype or Google Hangouts, and I'm actually able to make a better impression that way. It doesn't matter what I look like. Honestly, I don't put makeup on ever for my client calls, and I'm usually wearing pajamas, but the second I open my mouth and I start to talk about my value as an artist and what my ideas would be for the project, it's really easy going. It's pretty easy. And then on the phone, it's even better. They can't even see me. So it's all my voice. And I know that's really intimidating to some people, but you gotta get over it, man. Like, just think about it from your perspective. If you were about to drop $1,000 on a project, wouldn't you at least want to make a fucking phone call or have a video chat with that person before you gave them any kind of deposit? Instead of just some sketchy person you DM'd a couple times on Instagram? Seriously, like, I don't know about you. If you're making bad decisions, don't do that anymore, please. Just give them the information you feel comfortable with. If you're like, oh, I don't want to give out my personal information, I totally get that. You can get a free Google Voice number that when someone calls it, it rings your personal line. You even have like a little voicemail assistant. It's really, really nice, and is also a way that clients can very easily get in contact with you. If you go to my website, on the very, very bottom of my studio page, people have two choices. They can either fill out my questionnaire for a free quote, or they can just book a consultation with me right then and there. And I do that using a program called Calendly. It's paid, so that way it syncs up with my Google Calendar, and so that way they can immediately just schedule a meeting with me using anything they want. They can choose between phone, Google Hangouts, or Skype to talk to me, and I also have an option for an in-person meeting to meet me at my favorite coffee shop that just also happens to be 3 blocks from my house, which is very convenient in case I'm running late, you know what I'm saying? So that way I have multiple touch points, so that way if people have more questions, I can easily alleviate those concerns by just talking to them on the phone. So I highly, highly recommend it. And Danny, Google Voice number doesn't cost anything. It's free. She's like, does anyone know how much it costs? It's free. It's free, baby girls of the world. You're like, I don't want to use my cell number, but I guess what are the options out there? Yeah, you can either have a Google Voice number or just have a different phone line. So people do that, where they have a landline that's for their business. If like you work from home like me, and then they'll have their cell phone for personal use. I think a Google Voice number is totally fine. I personally just give out my cell phone number. Like, I used to have a Google Voice, and now I just use my cell phone number. Like, I just don't care. Because I screen all my calls anyways. So if you call me, potential clients, I'm not going to pick up the phone. You're going to get a voicemail. But once I know you're a client and you're interested, then I'll go ahead and I'll send you a link to book a time with me. Because I'm usually pretty busy, and you have to book time with me in advance. But I still leave my number out there just in case people just want to call it. And I've actually gotten clients because literally I'll pick up the phone, they'll call me, and be like, oh my God, you're the only person who picked up my phone call. It's like, you're the only designer that actually gave me a number to call. And like, that's why I got the job. I've had that happen like more than 10 times. So there's definitely an upside. Like, yeah, you might get a couple prank calls. I personally never gotten prank calls. I gotten like one old dude who talked to me for 30 minutes, and he just wanted to know what kind of chalk markers I used. That happened. But other than that, it was a pretty delightful conversation, right? So there's something, you really have nothing to lose but putting your number, or use a Google Voice number if you're feeling a little weird about it. So make it easy for them to contact you. Include as much contact information as you feel comfortable with. And then again, include your onboarding process. If there's a couple steps that they need to take in order to get this process started, that's important to note, especially since clients always need everything done yesterday. Right? They're like, I need you to get this done in 3 days. I was like, sure, I can get it done in 3 days, but only if we can go through my onboarding process today. And I can get a deposit by tomorrow, then I can make it on schedule. Because it's really important for us to set up expectations. This is important. This is every single client from Hell Story. Anytime you ever get screwed over by a client and vice versa, it always comes down to a breakdown in communication and no one set up expectations. This happens most often when people don't have an onboarding strategy in the first place. They don't have a contract or a proposal of any kind. They don't even list out anything via email. So it's like, of course, you're each going to have your own expectations, but since you hadn't communicated those expectations, you're probably not going to create a very good project. And then you're going to, get a lawsuit or you end up not getting paid for all those hours you spend on that project. Both of those are not good options. So let's prevent that. So when you are talking about your onboarding process, I want you to show them what they can expect before they hit the send button, right? So say, hey, like you could fucking Squarespace, do little blocks of paragraphs. It's like step 1, step 2, step 3. How professional is that? You don't have to write like a novel, write like 2 sentences. Step 1, quote, like form. Fill out this quote form and blah, blah, blah. All right, great. Step 2, like it's pretty straightforward. Just take the time to make it. I bet you it'll make a serious difference with you and your clients. And the last is create a questionnaire. Questionnaires are so good, and don't be afraid to ask too many questions. There are so many marketers out there, like fucking like 6 years ago, that were like, don't ask too many questions. You don't even need their name. Just ask for their email. I'm like, no, because then everyone's going to fill out my form, and then I'm going to be spending so much time trying to like rein in clients and get them to respond to my emails. And that sounds like hell, and I don't want to do it. The reason I like questionnaires, it does all the work for me. I typically have the same fucking 20 questions every single time I'm talking to a new client, regardless if it's a personal commission or it's a commercial or they're wanting to buy the rights to something or whatever. It's always the same questions. So instead of me having to take time out of my already busy day to email you, to call you, to whatever, why can't I just have a form that asks all those questions up front? And again, this is going to be a barrier to entry for a lot of those clients that are like, psh, you want me to spend like 15 minutes to fill out this form? I don't got time for that. Oh yeah? I don't have time for you. How about that? You only got 15 minutes to spend to fucking answer my questions so I can give you a quote. I don't have time for you. Head swivel. I'm not jaded. I'm fine. Just saying, this is a good thing. A barrier to entry is actually a very good thing. It saves you time. It allows you to automate some of your onboarding process. This is a game changer. So let's talk about some of the questions that you ask in a questionnaire. Well, you got to get all the business stuff out of the way. You got to get that contact info. You got to be asking questions like, hey, what's your name? What's your email address? What's the name of your business? Do you have a website? Like, this is really important. Typically, the first thing I do when someone fills out my form is go visit their website. This gives me an idea of like, is it a good looking website? How desperately do they need my help? If they're the kind of person that has a shithole website, but yet they're going to contact me to create a t-shirt design, that tells me that their priorities are all messed up. They're probably not going to be a very good client. But hey, if it's a professional, and it doesn't take much to make a professional website these days too. It's a pretty low bar, right? And then they have, because it's kind of like, if you make a t-shirt, it can be a sexy as fuck t-shirt, but if your website's garbage when someone lands on it to buy that t-shirt, you're not going to make any sales, and you're going to spend a bunch of money on me, and you're not going to make that money back, and then I don't want to work with you, because I don't want to steal your money. I want to make sure that you have your ducks in a row, so that way I'm an investment, not an expense. I'm doing it for you. I could just be like, give me your money, honey. Show me with your dollar and your Benjamins. But no, I'm trying to put the client first and think about your feelings, and more importantly, your bottom line. That's the whole point, right? So when we're asking questions like, hey, what's your email, what's your contact, all this stuff, I like to ask questions like, hey, how many years have you been in business? How do you get customers? Who is your target demographic? Because if they don't know the answer to these questions, they may not be ready to work with me yet. You know what I mean? Like if it's, unless they're a startup, then they might be like, oh, we're launching up. Just because someone's a startup doesn't necessarily mean they don't have any money. This could be like the 5th startup that they've done. You know what I mean? They could have investors. You don't know, so don't try to judge the word startup. Like, majority of my projects are for startups, and I'm very grateful for them allowing me to eat. Definitely don't alienate those people. But asking questions like, hey, how do you get your customers? If the answer is, I don't know, this project's not going to go very well. Like, they should be able to be like, oh, I get them from social media. We have organic traffic. We have our blog. We have a video series. We have something, right? We're talking about that outreach system. This client should probably have their own outreach system, or else they're not going to make any sales. And again, I'm not going to be a worthwhile investment for them. It's just not going to make sense. And obviously I need to know who their target demographic is. And I obviously don't need to know who their target demographic is in order to give them a price. That's more of like the information I need once I start production. But the reason I'm asking is to make sure that you know the answer and to understand that you actually thought about this a little bit. Like, how old are they? Where are they located? What are their interests? What kind of websites do they visit? And the more specific an answer I get on this question, the more confidence I have, okay, this is the kind of client that I want to work with. And we can also talk about things like clientele. I actually have a part of my form that you guys can check out that just says, hey, are you inquiring on the behalf of a design agency? This is really nice because that way not only do I get the design agency's website, but I also get the original client, and that also gets my antenna up and tells me that I can charge more money because it's an agency and not just a small business. And then if you can be specific and like, hey, I love working with design agencies, publishers, and apparel brands on your contact page, and that client is one of those things, they're going to feel much more likely and much more confident about inquiring with you. And then finally, we have scope. This is basics, right? What kind of assets do you need? How many illustrations do you need? In my experience, people typically want to purchase like 3 to 5 illustrations with me. It's not so much just one. People like series, I find, and it's actually really smart from the client's point of view because they're going to save money hiring the same artist to do 3 designs than they would 3 different artists, 3 designs, because you're going to have to be charged again for the onboarding. You're going to be charged again for their admin fees and all that stuff and their overhead. It's much cheaper to just work with one person. So I'm glad that I've reached a part of my career where I'm doing bigger projects instead of just these one-offs, because it means I'm breaking into a new bracket, if you will. So talking about assets, like how many designs that you need, how do you want these designs? Are you looking for vector graphics? Are they raster? Again, is it just a personal commission that's on the piece of paper it was made with? What kind of usage rights are you looking for? Usage rights, we've mentioned it a few times in these live streams. Please Google usage rights. As an illustrator, not a graphic designer. Sorry, graphic designers, you can't do this part. But illustrators, you get to charge a design fee. This is your time, right, to make the piece. And then you have usage rights, which is, the capability that client actually has the permission, if you will, to actually use those graphics. What I started doing with my clients is I just initially, you get included non-exclusive usage rights. That means when I make a design for you, you have the permission to use it. Yay! But it's not exclusive. So that means if I'm making a t-shirt for you in your company, I still have the rights to that artwork. I can sell my own t-shirts. I can sell and wholesale my own t-shirts to other companies. I can sell straight up that artwork to another client if I wanted to. And if you want to lock down that design, then you have to pay extra for usage rights. Whether that's for commercial, meaning they're printing it on a product to make money off of, or it's promotional, or they're just using that graphic to talk about a sale on Instagram, or it's the header image of a blog post. There's definitely a lot of nuances to it, and my feeling about the subject changes from year to year. So if you heard me talk about usage rights last year, I totally had different advice or what I do, but just something to consider when you are giving out prices. Okay, Nancy, to those websites that are poorly designed, but they want you to make a t-shirt design. Yes. So I had a client recently where I had to have a sit down with him and I talked to him about his website because he was wanting me to make a t-shirt for his new upcoming startup, but his website was garbage. He was using a really, really, really bad WordPress template. And I was like really kind of surprised because there's a lot of really good WordPress websites out there. I know I had WordPress for years and years. There's good options. And he was really, really proud of the website. He built it himself, but it was really, really bad. And more importantly, it made him look cheap. And his service was kind of like a premium service. So it's kind of like, instead of me being like, hey, your site sucks, I hate you, I'll never work with you, like that wouldn't have gotten me very far. So what I did instead is I sat him down and I gave him constructive criticism. This is important. Constructive criticism. Constructive. Not just like, ow, like, hey, I don't like this because of X, Y, and Z. And it doesn't hurt their feelings as much because they're a business. Yes, that website might have taken him like 5 days to make or months to make, but if it means he's not going to make any revenue on it, then he should know that, right? Like you need to know whether your website's going to work or not for you. And this works best with like a video call or a phone call of some kind. Via email, don't recommend. Don't give people bad news via email. They're going to hear it in the most sarcastic tone possible. Just don't do it. It's a bad idea. So what I did is I sat him down. I went through it. I'm like, hey, these are a couple things that I see the issue. First of all, your website is not responsive. The majority of users use mobile first. So if they land on your website to buy this t-shirt, it's going to crash for them and it's going to have a bad customer experience and you're going to lose that customer probably forever. And he was like, then he was like, okay, well, I can easily make it responsive like this. And I was like, but wait, there's more. the color scheme that you're using, there isn't enough contrast. So it makes it really, really hard for me to know where my eye is supposed to go on this page. And also I noticed that you're not using something called visual hierarchy in your typography. All of your headers and stuff are all the same size as your body copy. So when you do that, when everything's loud, nothing makes sense. So you really need to have things like, hey, my H1s and H2s are this size, my body copy is this size, and you're telling my eye where to go so I feel like at ease and it's really easy for me to skim your content. So just really giving that kind of critique so that way he's like, okay, you know what you're talking about. And I literally was like, I don't feel comfortable working with you unless I at least know that you're working on this in the background, that you're improving your website. And he was like, thank you so much for your feedback. He's like, I have to be honest, it kind of hurt my feelings, but you know what? That's not the point of this. And I was like, oh, thank you. Like, I definitely could have been a dick about it, but that wouldn't have gotten me very far, right? It's much easier because I'm trying to help the client. And nowadays, every time a client reaches out to me, I always include some sort of coaching involved. Whether it's like how to create their website, how to, improve their performance on Instagram or something like that, because that increases my perceived value. And now he's getting his website redesigned by a professional developer. So I was able to get another freelancer some work. And then I'm also creating a t-shirt for him as well that he can feel proud of, that he know his money is going to actually get him income, because my shirts do sell. I have really good engagement rates on my own personal work. And so I feel really confident that he'll be able to have the same success, if not more, because he has a much more targeted market than I do. So there's definitely a good way to tell people things. Just to wrap up, our in-depth questionnaire portion is just talking about scope, assets, usage rates, turnaround. I just want to make sure that you guys are asking every single question possible that you need in order to give them a quote. Yes, there's going to be different nuances, but this is why I think it's a good idea to have like a general form. I use Typeform personally. I'm a big fan of that platform because I have like GIFs that pop up and it's responsive. So it's like, hey, what's your name? My name's Dina. And I go, hi, Dina. And it's really personal and it's funny and people enjoy it versus just having like a boring form on Squarespace or something. So I really do like Typeform. They're a really good platform. They're one of the subscriptions that I've been paying for years now. Super big fan. Been featured on the website and that even got me clients. That's got to be something, right? Like the Typeform you use for a questionnaire to get clients, that platform liked the way that I did questionnaires so much that it got me more clients. It was just this crazy thing. If you guys want to check out my website, that you can see an example. If you check out my own questionnaire, you can totally steal it. You can steal all my questions. It's totally fine. I also have an article on my website. If you go to the homepage on the blog page, if you go back, I think like 2 pages, it's a little bit of an older article. It literally walks you through my entire onboarding process, my entire production process. It includes email templates, exactly what I say to clients, how I talk about pricing, my proposal, all that stuff's included. You could just check it out on my website and I'll link to it later on the YouTube for you guys to have access to it. I have all the information. You don't even know how much information I got. So if you guys are enjoying this content from the future and you like me and you like the advice that I try to give here on the tube, definitely consider becoming a patron for more stuff exactly like this. For $7 a month, you get access to a new live stream every Wednesday. And also you get a new digital hand lettering workbook to teach you a new style of typography every single month. You can easily print out some practice sheets and just get to practicing so you can finally start to memorize these styles so you don't have to rely on inspiration to draw. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for being my friend on the internet. I'll see you later. You're so cool. You're so nice. I love you so much. Never stop being cool and nice. Bye.